see you guys in the dark.
I am currently a 21-year-old female. I have lived alone since I was 18. When I was around 18 or 19, I would often take walks to a park that wasn't too far from my apartment complex. I had a boyfriend, ex-boyfriend now, at the time who was a couple months older than me, but unfortunately was at work when I decided to go out for my walk. I should mention now that there is a bus stop at the left end of my street that wasn't too far from the park. I remember stopping at the end of the block, waiting for cars to let me pass. Then I, for some reason, looked over at the bus stop and saw a man staring me down. After noticing this, I really didn't care if the cars would let me pass or not. So I just walked into the road. I did almost get hit, but I just wanted to be far away from that guy. There was a high school that was probably 5-10 minutes away from the park. I remember looking back at the school, because it was a school I was currently attending at that time. Then I saw that the man who was staring me down from the bus stop was following me. I started slightly panicking. I think I even texted my ex-boyfriend about how I'm pretty sure I was being followed. I kept looking back behind me and made sure there was a good sizable distance between him and I. I knew if I would have slowed my pace, something bad was going to happen. I eventually got to the park and started getting really anxious, my reasons being: 1, the park entrance was down a hill and split into 2 separate paths that you couldn't see into due to trees simply being in the way. 2, nobody would have been able to see what could have happened to me if I chose to go down one of the 2 paths. 3, I was off from work and school all day and it was 2 paths. As I started walking down the winded hill, I saw a woman with 2 kids and a dog. I remember the instant relief. Furthermore, the safety I felt when seeing her. I even picked up my pace to get to her quicker because I was scared out of my mind. I still remember the exact conversation I had with her to this day. Hey, I know this may seem weird, but I live down the hill, and while I was crossing the intersection where the bus stop was at, I noticed him staring at me, then started following me. Can you just act like you know me? If this man comes down here. Before she could even reply, I titled my head up to the man who was about to come down the hill. When I did that, I think he slightly panicked and started walking away. She saw the seriousness of the situation and gathered her kids up into the stroller. I don't know what made him decide to do this next, but as she was trying to get things packed up, he at some point turned back around and was now coming down the hill. I told her that he was coming down, and the woman moved quicker than ever to get things packed up, and I even started helping. As he walked up to us, he immediately started trying to ask me questions. I can't remember what all he said, but I remember the woman was pretty much answering for me. I guess he had tried to ask if we knew each other, which of course she lied by telling him she didn't know me, and I was coming down to walk back with her. I do know. I backed her up with this claim. I just wanted that guy to leave me, and now her alone. He asked us a couple more questions, and eventually we excused ourselves and started our way back up the hill. I remember the woman I had met walked with me all the way down to the intersection where the bus stop was across from. She was clearly very scared for me, due to the fact the guy had eventually started following me and her back. I felt so bad for dragging her into that situation. I didn't know if he would try to follow me all the way back home if we broke off there, or if he would decide to aim new focus onto the woman who was just simply at a park playing with kids she was babysitting. Before he could get too close to us, I walked over to some construction workers whom were now working on the high school sign. I explained the whole situation to them and told them about how we thought it was weird, how the man who was initially just following me was now following me and the lady. I pleaded them to call the cops if he went past the bus stop or started following the lady. The construction workers happily agreed. Then the woman and I went on our own ways. I don't know what happened to that man. I don't know if he was arrested or not. However, an hour later, my ex-boyfriend had gotten home from work. We went out to go run errands, and as we were driving up the hill, there were 4 police cars parked around the intersection where I told the construction workers to call the police if the man was still trying to follow me. I'm just glad the police were called, especially with the high school being so close. I couldn't have forgave myself if he had tried to follow some poor high school kid just walking home. This happened late 2016, early 2017. I have really bad anxiety, so oftentimes I try to push myself to do things that are out of my comfort zone. So, early one Saturday morning, I drove myself and my Frenchton, Finn, to a national park about 30 minutes or so from our house. It's cold, we're having a great time, walked a couple of trails, and I'm pleased with myself for getting out of the house. Not only did I leave my yard, but I drove somewhere by myself. That's huge for me. We just finished walking our third little tail that looped back to the parking lot when I noticed another car was parked a few spaces down from mine. With it being off-season, we were the only two cars around. I get a little paranoid, but no big deal. I then see this guy, about 50s, slightly balding, glasses, and a long coat, get out of his car, silver Sebring, and start heading toward Finn. And as we come out into the opening that has a little park, bathrooms, cookout area, and parking lot. This guy is looking directly at me and starts walking faster. Alright, I'm creeped out. I skirt around the little gazebo cookout place, duck down and run a little footpath that heads down towards the water. Surely I'm just being paranoid, right? I then see this guy look around frantically until he spots me once again. Nope, I'm scared. He starts walking faster towards me as I full-on run to my car, towing poor Finn behind me. I can now see the creeper running for his own car. I all but throw a very terrified-looking Frenchton in the passenger seat, and we book it out of the park going way faster than the speed limit allows. The roads in the park are all twisty and full of turns. I think I've lost him, but take the back way out anyway. About 10 minutes later, my heart finally starts to slow down a bit. Yeah, that was short-lived. The scary park creeper zooms up behind me and gets right up on my bumper. I can actually see this guy in my mirror, and he looks crazy. We're speeding as fast as we can on the old pothole-infested road. We even passed a parked cop car doing 75. I finally get into town and get stuck at a red light behind a bunch of cars. Will he try to come up to the car? What do I do if he does? Why can Finn be more of an aggressive dog? He pulls up behind me, then swerves into the other lane going right. The light turns green. He heads his way and I keep on straight and speed all the way home. I wish I'd driven straight to the police station, but in my panic my brain just sort of took over and I had to get back to my safe place right then. As for my phone, I had it. It was there all along and charged. Why didn't I call for help? I've no freaking clue. Apparently my brain doesn't work so well when being stalked. I am quite a loner, and like to go on walks just to get some mom time. This one night on the 27th of November, I decided to go on another lengthy walk of mine. There was something eerie this time though, as I had a feeling that the 27th of November is a night that something grotesque was going to happen, and boy, I was right. So at around 2 a.m. I was restless and made my way into the cold night with that same feeling of dread I had had earlier on in the day. The first hour of my walk was pretty normal and nothing out of the ordinary. But lo and behold, I had a feeling I was being watched. Bearing in mind it was about 3 a.m. now, and I was sitting on a bench that was in a park that wasn't very well lit. Someone else being in the park was very unlikely as it's a small town, and the only people who would be around at this time is drunk pishheads who do my head in. Anyways, there was no sound coming from the dark figure that caught my eye. He was just standing there staring in my direction. I looked down at my phone to put my torchlight on, and pointed my light towards the dark figure, but to my surprise, he had vanished. Me just being paranoid and extremely tired, I just ignored the weird encounter and decided it would be best to make my way home and get some shut-eye. Placing my phone back in my pocket and lighting up another cigarette, I made my way back to my house, but still had this uneasy feeling of someone watching me. I'm normally not easily scared, but this felt different, like someone had decided to taunt me. I looked behind me to see the same dark-figured man standing right beside a tree just looking my way. Now I know this isn't just something my mind had made up. I shout to the figure, "Hey man, is there a problem?" You could tell there was fear in my voice, but I wasn't going to let this creep get the best of me. No response from him. This was just getting weird now. I stood there, and my eyes widened. The man got to the floor and started crawling towards me in a manner I could only describe as insane. The only thing I could hear was this hissing noise which I presumed was coming from him. I just stood there, wondering what on earth he was going to do to me, but in my current state I just looked at him with fear. As he edged closer, I vaguely noticed something was dangling from his rucksack. I guessed that it was some bird, or a sort of small creature. Anyway, I didn't want to hang around to find out, so I dashed up a small lane right back to my house. Looking back on the ordeal, maybe I shouldn't have headed straight back to my house, as he would know where I lived. But my head was in a messed up place from all the fear this man had caused me. I ran through my gate to my front door and quickly glanced behind me to find him just standing outside my closed gate. One thing the man said to me will always send chills down my spine to this day. He muttered the words, "One day we will meet again, and this time you will be coming home with me."
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos, and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.